Hi, Manong George here, and we'd like to thank our sponsor for today's video, BCRemit, because we care. Hello, Manong George here. Welcome to our channel, and today we have a very special guest.
My name is Mark Doblas, and I'm here in the UK. I'm working in one of the NHS trusts as the lead clinical practice facilitator for international nurses. So this role also is similar as a matron for international recruitment. So I'm also an internationally educated nurse who's been recruited from the Middle East. So I've been in the UK for 4 years and 5 months now. So it's been an exciting journey, and I'm just glad that now I'm able to do the recruitment for our fellow overseas nurses all across the globe.
Man knows best.
When it comes to creating your CV, you have to make sure that the essential things that an NHS employer will be looking for is front and center. So number one, you should show there that you've already taken your English requirement, either IELTS or OET. When is the expiry date of this examination? Aside from that, you also have to show if you've already been registered, started your application with the NMC. And along with that, you should include CBT, the computer-based test, and when this examination is going, this result is going to expire. We often miss that in our CVs. What we always see in the CV, front and center at the top of the CV, is usually the demographic information like age, gender, weight, height. Those are unessential. We don't even look at the faces. It's not even essential to have a photo in your application. So please refrain from having all those unnecessary information. Instead, highlight on the more important things such as those mentioned. Another important thing that you also need to think about is you have to make sure your language used in the CV is something that is easily understandable by an NHS employer. What am I trying to say here? Say, for example, if you are from African countries, most African countries use nursing officer, and they also use we rarely see languages such as charge nurse, or if not, nurse manager. So we only see nursing officer, and that actually doesn't translate really in the same way here in the UK. Same goes, like, say, for example, in the Philippines, we often see nurse 1, nurse 2. What is that? We don't really exactly understand what that is. So if you can put it in brackets, what do you mean by that? Does that have the same responsibility as a charge nurse? Does that have the same responsibility as a senior sister? Just so it's clear. Another very important thing, so the third most important thing, is that please do not copy and paste from the internet your roles and responsibilities. Imagine we see thousands of CVs every single day. So we receive thousands of CVs every single day. We do the shortlisting. We read it. We read each and every part of your CV. And we become very familiar with those that are just copy and pasted from the internet. Even if it's very short, as long as it captures what your job role is in that particular department. That's what is important. And if I may add, it's best that you also write it in paragraph form rather than bulleted. All right. We all another important point is that we need for your CV to start with the current experience. Some of the applicants write their CVs in very how would I say that, retrospective. So they start from 2008, and then the recent experience is way in the what, second, third page of their CVs. It's not a good way of presenting yourself. Take note that most NHS employers are looking for candidates with at least a year experience, recent experience in an acute setting. So why would you market yourself with that experience you had in the past? So you always start with the recent experience. All right. And if you also can add in brackets how many years that experience is, just to just to help us with the counting of the number of years of your clinical experience. And you don't really need to hide things. You don't need to sugarcoat things. You don't need to mask things, because from what we see, even if they work in an occupational industrial nursing, even if they work in a clinic, they will still say staff nurse, and that actually will still reflect in your interview, and it doesn't really give a good impact to the interviewer. So if you're working in occupational health industry, write it. You just have to write it down. You don't have to just say staff nurse, because that somehow is very much misleading. And then another thing is that if you have non-nursing related experience, you can just write it on the side. You have to remember you're selling yourself. You're selling your nursing experience. So you have to highlight your nursing experience, those non-nursing related experience, which of course is still of value, because sometimes that also explains or showcases your leadership, your management. So you can write that on the side, and you don't need to write a thorough background of your roles and responsibilities on that particular job, just because it is not as related to the other jobs you've done. We just want to highlight on those jobs that really matter to an employer. Another tip is I would say that please indicate which area of nursing or expertise you're very comfortable being assigned to. So is it surgical division? Is it medical division? Do you just prefer special areas? Is it A&E? Is it the theater? So is it endoscopy? So highlight that. It has to be when you, it also is even much important if you write career objectives, which most of you do. Most of the career objectives we read, it's very, very cliche. It doesn't stand out. So you can be very specific. You can say that with 8 years of experience in the emergency department, you are a proficient emergency nurse and you would want to be assigned in an emergency department, but you also want to explore working in an acute setting in the ward, mainly in surgical division. So please specify on that, just so it's clear. So whoever is recruiting or shortlisting, it doesn't mean to say that you're not shortlisted, you're not good enough. Maybe you're just not the right fit for what they're looking for, because maybe you're a children's nurse and there is no vacancy in the children's department. So at least you know for yourself that you've marketed yourself into a way that where you can see yourself working in the NHS. And some people would always just say that, oh no, I'm comfortable in any ward. I've been exposed to every ward. Oh, we're generalists. In the Philippines, we work in both medical, surgical department. You have to understand that the way it is in the UK is very much different. So there's that division, whether medical or surgical, and you have to choose. Just be very clear about that. Um, we also do not need your character references. We don't know these people. We don't call them at all. So it's a waste of paper to add that at the bottom part of your CVs. We will ask for references if we think we need to. But most cases, 90% I would say, we don't call them and we don't check them. It is the agency who will look at your um, certificate of employment or your any ties you have with those previous employers. But during the interview, it's not important. We don't need that. What is important though, if you want to add, is it's best that you include what cases have you handled. What do you think are unique experiences or diagnoses that you've seen or encountered in your exposure or in your previous work? It's very important because there we will then get to understand, okay, this person was able to handle AF or whatever, diabetes, whatever. So then whoever is doing the shortlisting will then think that, okay, this person has a space in our organization. Because let's say you will be applying for a cancer center. Then you pointed out there that you've handled this kind of cancers and all that. So you will then be a good fit for the organization. Another thing as well is you can also write about all the equipment that you've handled in the past. Very important because that goes to show what kind of what instruments, what equipment you're familiar with, and then it correlates with whatever cases or diagnosis that you've handled. Um, I've also noticed that most of the applicants write their trainings. Yes, that can be, that can have bearing. However, please do not go back as far as 3 years, 5 years ago training because for one, it may already be obsolete. Another is that you will still have a different training when you come to the UK anyway, and the practice here may be different from that training you may have had in the past. So yeah, just keep it to a minimum. 5 would be enough. You don't have to list down everything because we don't even have the time to read all of that. We just want to see right when we see your CV what we think is important. Yeah. You also would have to highlight if you worked in a different healthcare setting in a different country. So that's very good. You don't need to include the exact address of your previous employers because we never we don't really have a clue where in the world those employers are. What is important is that at least if you want, you can add what that facility is like. Or let's say, like when you say it's a mediclinic. What is a mediclinic? What do you mean by that? If you worked in a center, what center do you mean that is? Yeah. So we'd rather see that than see the entire address of the location or the location of the employer.
Write this down. Gotta write it down.
Always remember, Manong knows.
Manong knows best, put your worries to rest when staying in the United Kingdom. Manong knows best.